Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Tulo Hoyani. More breaking news for the day. This one can also not wait. Breaking news this afternoon is that Sifiso Meyiwa, Senzo Meyiwa's elder brother, has written a letter to the Judges Association calling for the removal of Judge Ratha from the Senzo Meyiwa trial. That is the breaking news. Now, you'll recall that over a long period of time, Sifiso has always said he does not believe in the trial that is unfolding before the Pretoria High Court. In other words, he does not believe that the people standing trial in the Pretoria High Court are the right people to be charged. Now, let us get back to Judge Ratha himself. Judge Ratha himself has, courted controversy throughout this trial. There are perceptions that he is biased towards the prosecution and has dealt with the defense in a most undesirable manner. Let me give you some examples of what he has done in the past. In the past, you'll recall there was that time when the Black Lawyers Association even had to intervene. This was after Judge Ratha had made disparaging remarks about black lawyers in general. I think the lawyers were late or something. So he made comments about black lawyers, and that did not go down very well, especially with the Black Lawyers Association. So the Black Lawyers Association took that issue with the Judge President of the Gauteng Division, Justice Dustin Lambo. The Black Lawyers Association then wrote to the Judge President to say, we need an explanation. What is going on here? Why is Judge Ratha making references, to race inferiority, in fact? He attributes conduct to race. So the Judge President then intervened and got in touch with Judge Ratha to say, here is some communication about concerns about what is happening in your court. Can you please explain what's going on here? We then saw the following day, I think, or a few days after that, Judge Ratha actually retracted everything and apologized. And even went to the extent that if anybody had, if any offense had been caused to anybody, he deeply regretted it all. But, well, that was that. But it would appear that, the way that the judge has been conducting the trial has been unsatisfactory in a number of ways. It has been unsatisfactory in a number of ways because there was a time when the late Mngomezulu confronted him to say, you are biased, and I'm going to make a special entry. A special entry is something that, can be noted in the event that, a lawyer or a counsel before the court feels that something is not being, that the conduct of the trial is irregular for one reason or another. He can make a special entry, and then the special entry can be argued right there and there, or it can be taken later on appeal, but it gets noted for the record that here is an irregularity. You'll also recall that, the most unfortunate thing that ever happened in that courtroom, I think, was when the late Advocate Mngomezulu was ill and, just barely hanging on to his life. Judge Ratha told people in his court, everybody who was in attendance there, that he had been given information by some informant of his that Advocate Thulani Mngomezulu had been seen in and around the Pretoria High Court on the very morning when Advocate Thulani Mngomezulu was supposed to be in hospital. Unfortunately, the following day, Mngomezulu passed away. So these were very unfortunate remarks, because one wonders, and I think this matter still has to be revisited in the light of this letter by Sifiso to the Judges Association. This matter still has to be revisited, because my question has always been, who was that source that told Judge Ratha that he or she had seen Advocate Thulani Mngomezulu in and around the Pretoria High Court building, when in fact at the time Advocate Thulani Mngomezulu was absent from court because he was battling for his life? That is why only the following day he passed away. So there have been these developments over time, which have been very unfortunate. He has always made very disparaging remarks about the defense as to, their competence or their grasp of the English language generally. And he has been very confrontational. At the times, you have seen him get into, shouting matches with Advocate Msololo. We have seen him get into shouting matches with advocate who now? Who's this other advocate? I'll remember the advocate, right? But he has actually had, this, back and forth with the advocates, or the advocate is Mnisi. Advocate Mnisi has always had run-ins with Advocate Mnisi, over a number of irregularities, because the way that trial is conducted, I've always said, take for example when an objection is raised by the defense. No ruling follows after that, but we will then stand up, counter that objection, and after that the judge will say, okay, let's get on with it, without a ruling following, so that matter becomes settled before the court. So there are a lot of things which, are happening in that courtroom which, are very disturbing. We also know for a fact that he has told Judge Ratha has admitted in court that the judge president is worried about, the length that this trial is taking. He also went to an extent of saying that the judge president even commented, maybe in a jovial manner, to say you must be enjoying yourself in that courtroom. So the judge president is also concerned about the time it is taking to dispose of this matter. So Sifiso Meyiwa has written to the Judges Association to complain about Judge Ratha. I am still trying to get hold of, the actual contents of the issues that he has raised in that letter. But I can confirm that this was also an ENCA, right? It was also an ENCA by way of, that new strip that runs along ENCA at the bottom of your screen there. So we have it on good authority that, in fact, Sifiso Meyiwa has written this letter. I've been trying to call Sifiso. Unfortunately, at the time of making this video, I was still not successful in trying to get hold of him. But let us wait and see, and I'm sure the contents of that letter will be public knowledge in no time at all. But it is encouraging to see that, things like this are developing in the run-up to the resumption of the trial next week. And like she has always been saying, he's not satisfied. Now he's, point blank saying, I'm not satisfied with the way the judge is conducting the trial. Let us see whether they'll take his complaint seriously and see where it goes from here. Having said that, let me thank you for the views that I'm seeing and all the subscriptions that I'm seeing, and have a wonderful day.